order of the North Harris County Regional Water Authority. It's August 4th, 2025. We've got a quorum tonight, and our first item is, after call to order, is the Pledge of Allegiance. And I've asked Mr. Ben Solis of the Harris County Freshwater Supply District 61 to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you very much. Next item is public comments, and you've got to fill out a blue card to be able to give a public comment. You have 3 minutes. The only blue card we have is for Mr. Jerry Hellman with the Water Users Coalition.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Holman. Tonight I'd like to talk about common sense, or the lack thereof. The North Harris County Regional Water Authority, the authority management team, projects $3 billion plus of future debt over the next 10 years. The management team also informs us that the authority will not meet the 2025 conversion mandate, including the use of all available credit conversions, subjecting the authority's customers to a possible disincentive fee of over $13 per 1,000 gallons. There will need to be a special variance deal in order to avoid disincentive fees. Unfortunately, the authority has a self-inflicted damaged relationship with the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District. This effort would be difficult due to poor relations, lack of trust, and ill-advised actions, such as pushing forward legislation to remove the authority from the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District, mandate and arbitrarily lowering the water rates to less than it takes to produce water. This latest effort to reduce operating reserves of $300 million, a 10% contingency for emergencies, capital improvements, debt, credit ratings, and other related expenses, with the stated position that it's not our money, let's give it back to the ratepayer, only to reborrow the same money later at a higher interest rate with related soft costs upwards of 20%. A second stated position is to have no more than $50 million in operational reserves, less than a 2% contingency. This would lead to higher borrowing costs with lower credit rating and potentially operational shortfalls. You don't have to be a financial expert to see that trouble is on the horizon. What happens when the bills come due? The water rate will take a steep upwards trajectory, higher and faster than it would have been due to the current board policies and mismanagement. Mitigate future damages and save us all money by listening to your management team and hired professionals. Keep a healthy operational debt contingency reserve of 5 to 10%. Pay off debt with any extra monies beyond your contingency. Stop selling water for less than you pay for it. Build a better relationship with regulators and support your customer base, the mud districts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next up is Mr. Ron Chapman with Mud District 2.
We've done indeed unfortunately, we're in the situation we're in now. We've had too many people since 2020 that are opposed to the current surface water program. We've done enough to delay and deny and create problems. The end result of that is that those of us who are water customers, that puts the district in the receipt, the water residents gonna have to pay a higher fee for the water than they otherwise would have to pay. This is unfortunate and unwise and it's so unnecessary. Those of you who've been working in this direction to delay everything have achieved your goal.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is a message from the president and board members. Well, the only thing I'll say is, to Mr. Chapman, the board has not delayed any projects. We've actually been told by the staff, we were behind a couple of years, and that has nothing to do with any decisions the board has made. But, thank you for your comments. And that's all I have. Next up is agenda item 4 for the minutes from the July 7th regular board meeting, which we all received a copy of on Friday.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Approved. Agenda item 5, finance director's report.
Thank you. The financial report is as of June 30th, 2025. All the, breakout of the funds are in your board packet. And on the screen tonight shows the capital funds, interest and sinking and debt service reserves, coverage, improvement funds, and operating funds. All of the detailed reports are provided in the board packet and on the, website. And the design, engineering, acquisition, construction, and consultant and expense checks are totaling $10,145,265.13 are presented for your authorization and signature, and I'd like to request approval of the financial report and authorization for payment of the bills.
Move approval of financial report, payment of bills.
Thank you, Director Harrison.
Yeah, just a quick question, since Director Parker is not here, I'll play David. At least my voice gets out. On the plot that he had you start generating 6 months or a year ago, can you explain to us how the $300 million fund has not changed appreciably, even though we've cut rates over the years? That's, I mean, David and subsequently I thought that would drop, especially after the $1.
And it will. The June report doesn't show it. I just recently moved $5 million out to cover the debt service interest and, deposits, monthly deposits. It is getting later in the year, we will have, annual one-time expenses. The principal on the bonds doesn't hit until December 15th, so we still have some time before we will be, using more of that. If the budget, stands like it is, we should do a little better in our budgeted revenues, maybe not as low as budgeted, depends, it's been very wet so far this year. So we might be right at our budget number, but our expenses might not be as high. So that's a difference. It's just, we haven't hit all of our major expenses for the year.
And I knew that, but okay. Let's see.
Are we making interest on that money too?
Yes. Yes, that occurs interest, and we'll have an update on our investments shortly.
And at the current rate, projection is that fund will have close to $100 million, reduction, decrease by the year.
Really?
Yes.
With just standard expenses, or?
Well, like Cindy said, most of the payments is,
Did we decrease that much last year after we had?
last year we operated, reduced by $35 million.
And we bounced back?
I wouldn't say hospital, so we did collect revenue through the beginning of the year and pay off.
Okay.
Make payments later in the year.
Okay.
Just that it did, if you look at the graph, it did not really show up appreciably in 2024.
But 2024 is a extremely dry year, so we did have a higher surface water and groundwater pumpage, so revenue increased.
That means we didn't see a dip in December, November time.
Okay, that's last year.
Which is a great question.
Yeah, a lot of times the expenses that we budget we don't incur all of them. There are some contingencies that we don't incur, so we didn't have a big dip in 2020.
Okay, if no other discussion with that, motion will be able to approve, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next up is the annual review of investments.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Ash Nika with Public Trust Advisors, and he would give an overview of the investments that our investment advisory firm takes care of for us, and so this is an annual review.
Welcome.
Okay, so here is your annual investment update for the authority. Public Trust Advisors is the investment advisor for the authority. We manage the debt service funds and some of the sinking funds as you spend down payments on the bonds. So what we're here to do is talk a little bit about what the rate market will look like for the foreseeable future and how that will affect your earnings on the investments that you have. So I'm going to speak very briefly. I know we're in a time crunch here, so I'm going to talk about three macroeconomic themes that are affecting the rate markets as we see it. Obviously, everyone's seen the rates have been up at around 5.5, now around 4.25, 4.75. The economy is really going very strongly right now, but we do have headwinds in inflation. Obviously, prices, you've all seen that, have been increasing at lower than prior rates, but are still increasing at about 2.5% year over year. Labor market softening is a big effect on what the Fed is going to do when it comes to cutting rates. Prior to last week, the labor market was looking very strong before the revision. And finally, one of the big economic concerns for the market is tariffs and how that's going to affect trade. How will that affect the GDP of our country going forward, and will that allow us to cut rates? So I'm going to skip through this fairly quickly. I know there's a lot on the agenda, but I'm just going to go through a few slides. Obviously, everyone knows what happened. Right here is a chart of inflation over the last 10 years. Everyone sees what happened during COVID and the massive run-up of inflation that we had. The Fed's mandate is that that raise stays at that line around 2%. To be able to cut rates, they'd like to see that average below 2%. Obviously, we have a lot of pressure coming from other sides outside of economic indicators to lower rates at the Federal Reserve level. But this is just another sign to say this: we are not ready yet to be cutting rates. I know we had a conversation prior to this, but right now economic indicators are showing that inflation is still above that 2% average year-over-year rate, which is giving the Fed some pause when it comes to cutting rates. As we all knew, shelter was a huge problem during COVID, which was one of the major pushes for inflation over the last couple of years, and it's still up there. But we had some relief when it comes to energy, and used car prices have come down as well, so the overall inflation levels are dropping back down. The housing market is finally slowing down. That has also been part of that shelter equation. As housing prices increase, that increases the entire inflation number. So we have some relief from the run-up over 21 to 22 and 23. Seeing a few increases mid-23, but it has started to come down again because of the interest rate market being so prohibitive at current rates. Forecasts are pretty consistent. GDP at 2% year-over-year growth is what we're seeing. We've had the lulls in 2020, obviously due to the COVID pandemic, a big bounce back due to all the stimulus in 2021. And as that has worn off, we're kind of floating at that 2% level. So what we want to talk about is, and what we were talking about earlier before this meeting, is when are rates going to come down? Now, this is a double-sided effect because it affects our investments here and the return that we're getting, but it also affects your borrowing costs. So it's a good thing and a bad thing for the ability on both sides. But this is prior to the jobs number that was revised last week. So the Fed is predicting a few cuts by the end of next year. So these numbers at the top is one rate cut, is one number. So 0.74, there's a 75% chance that there's one rate cut in September. And there's a 1 point, additional cuts in the future. So by October, we expect to have 2 cuts, 1.35, so 1.5 cuts. This is all going to change, and this changes every quarter. As soon as these numbers are printed, it's outdated. So, take this with a grain of salt. But we are predicting some rate cuts coming before the end of this year and continuing into next year. Unemployment is obviously been adjusted downwards, but that number of 4% is the level where the Fed likes to see unemployment, 4%. They don't want full employment because that actually causes wage growth, because you have to pay more money to hire people. But 4% is typically the baseline. Between 2 and 4% is what they call healthy unemployment. When that number starts to tick up, then the Fed starts looking at, is it time to cut rates to stimulate the economy. And again, we're seeing wage growth has kind of stagnated over the last couple of years. We had a job shortage for a number of years. There was multiple job openings for people in the workforce. So you saw some significant year-over-year wage growth in the beginning of COVID or just post-COVID. That's returned down to that 3.7% year-over-year growth rate, which is more in line with norms. And basically what this comes down to here is what are we predicting for the future when it comes to your investments. The 4-month treasury yield right now is 4.3%. The rest of the yields are basically changing as the rate cuts are predicted. So you're seeing pretty big drops in the farther out investments. We are in an inverted yield curve now, so you're actually getting paid more to keep money in the short term than you are to invest money out of the yield curve. That has been mitigating over the last couple of years, but we had so much money printed in 2022 and 23 so that they had to pay that type of rate. Same is going on in the money markets over the next 4 to 5 months as rate curve, as the Fed cuts rates, the yields on your bank products, your investment pools, et cetera, will move down in line with the federal rate cuts. So, you've been getting, at one point last year, you were getting 5.3% in the pool, now it's 4.42%. And as the yields drop down, those returns are going to also drop down. But your borrowing costs will go down. So there are pros and cons. And this is the dot plot, which is where the Fed economists believe where rates are going to be. We have quite the spread of beliefs of where rates are going to be. So each one of the yellow dots on this board is a voting member of the Federal Reserve. And they take a survey at the end of every meeting to say, where do you think rates are going to be at the end of 26, at the end of 27, and for the longer term. So you can see there's quite a big spread of some people thinking it's going to be below 3% at the end of 2026, all the way up to people saying it's going to stay the same all the way through the end of next year. So, there's a lot of economic indicators that are moving around every quarter. So what we can predict right now is, they're saying 2 to 3 rate cuts before the end of the year. And obviously, as that number that was printed earlier this week showed, we may be expecting 3 before the end of this week.
And this was before the revisions Friday?
Correct. This is data as of the last Fed meeting, and then this changes pretty much as soon as it's printed. Some sort of other economic data has come out to tell you that this isn't right. So what we can say is that yes, inflation is going to be trending downwards. So as that number becomes more manageable, potentially the Fed will start cutting rates, which would be great for the housing market, which would be great for some other things, not necessarily great for the cash position and the debt service that you go to, but it will be good for borrowing. And again, everything that we can invest in is regulated by the state of Texas. It's code 2256. It tells us what we can or cannot do with taxpayer dollars. So people will ask me during the meeting, why can't we buy Bitcoin or why can't we buy gold? Well, the stick to a certain subset of investments that are. So the portfolio composition as of June 30th, you have cash deposits with NHCRWA Bank. You have 39 different sub-accounts with 2 investment pools. And we have Public Trust manages the debt service of the 14 sub-accounts of all the different projects. And that is in your book. I know this is very small to read, but the funds are there with their yields and their duration. Again, everything is very short term. Things mature in less than 3, everything matures in less than 3 years. And you can see your balances and the earnings for each one of those funds. This time, hopefully that was quick enough. If there's any questions from me, I'd be happy to take any. Otherwise, we'll.
What's the bottom, what's the total on there?
412,570,000. This is just the debt service. This is not the investment pools or operating dollars. This.
Yeah, given the BLS revisions on Friday, you're in private business, what data sources do you all rely on instead of BLS?
So we use what the Fed uses because we're completely dependent on what the Fed uses. We have our own sources of, we can look at other indicators, but what the Fed uses is what we have to go on, right? We can say Schiller has this other index that says this. Now, our portfolio managers will make moves based on what they, they'll do strategy moves for the portfolio based on what the Fed is projecting. And that basically what the market will obviously price in and tell us what the market thinks. But we go with it.
So how much do we have in cash?
In cash,
Yes.
that would be City's Department of Pools between the bank and the pools.
Do we have more in cash than we should, do we have the rest of it invested? So,
Yeah, it's very diversified, some
Right.
are in the pool, some are in the checking account, you can see the whole list in the, financial reports of where they're all at. So, checking accounts, but mostly in the pools and, in with the public trust, that is investing those, but those are in, US Treasuries, Fannie Mae, Freddie Macs, things like that, that are very secure, there's nothing, super risky that's invested in. Part of the Public Funds Investment Act requires diversification, so that's why it's in multiple places.
And everything is, again, backed by, it's secure. We don't sell anything. We hold everything to maturity, so there's no losses in the investments. So there's no rebalancing of trades or any sort of, we won't take a loss on any investments that we buy and we hold until it matures. Reinvest it back in time.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for him? Be sure we can get your name spelled and everything like the, for our minutes and such.
Ash, A-S-H, last name's M-E-H-T-A.
M-E-H. What was your, your first name again?
Ash, A-S-H.
Okay. I didn't hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is, the order regarding annual review of rules, policies, code of ethics, and list of authorized brokers for the investment of authority funds.
Yeah, each year the authority is required by the Public Funds Investment Act to review our investment policy and investment strategy, as well as to review, revise, and adopt a list of qualified brokers that are authorized to engage in investment transactions with the authority. So that review has been, looked at, and the, authorized brokers list, the attachment of the order has been, reviewed and updated. I'd recommend the authority adopt the order regarding annual review of rules, policies, code of ethics, and list of authorized brokers for the investment of the authority's funds.
For your motion?
I'll make the motion.
Any questions? Discussion? favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So motion carries. Okay, the general manager's report.
All right, so first up is our status of surface water supply and conversion. So the charts that we see each month, or each month that we come back to the board meeting, we've updated on this chart. At the very right side, you can see July, these estimates for surface water delivered. So roughly 37 MGD that was delivered in July for the average over the whole month for each day. And if you compare that to July of last year, we were sitting at 31 MGD, so that's a good increase from where we were last year. And then we also have added in here the percent conversion. The groundwater numbers always lag behind the surface water. Surface water, we can see what's going on, and groundwater takes a little bit longer for us to get everybody's data accumulated. So we're always a month behind on the percent conversion because we're updating all the groundwater numbers. So percent conversion for then the month of June was at 34%, and if you compare that to last year, we were at 29%, so that's a good bump up from this time last year. The good news is we have a handful of new water receiving facilities that are about to come online, so this number should get even better here in the near-term future. The next, I'd say 60 days, we've got a handful of them coming online, another between half a dozen and a dozen more between now and the end of the year that will be coming online. So we've got a lot more water to be selling here in the near-term future. The percent conversion, you can see once again we're trending upward on the June numbers, which is good. So we were a little bit stagnant over the past couple of months, so it's good that our numbers are trending upward.
Good information. Thank you. I can see all the excitement in your face. Share on that. Any discussion on that? Next is B, approve and authorize the execution of financing agreements with Texas Water Development Board in connection with the 2025 State Water Implementation Revenue Fund for Texas.
Okay, good to hear a lot from you tonight. So, the financing agreement with the Texas Water Development Board is, for the, 2025 closing on our commitment. The amount of the closing is $204 million this year. That is consistent with the approved capital improvement plan for this year. If you recall, the, previous commitments for the 2025 bond size was $326 million. But during the review and preparation of the capital improvement plan that was adopted by the board for 2025, showed that we could reduce this bond size this year by $122 million. So we have the financing agreement for your approval and authorization for June to execute the financing agreement. It's draft right now, and the bond council is reviewing it. Subject to their review, there shouldn't be any changes, but if there is, it would be probably something minor. The agreement was standard similar to last year, just updating dates and dollar amounts. So,
Would you like a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Director Ramsey?
Yes, I'm of the opinion that we should not go forward on this, at least until next month, when Director Parker will be back. I'm looking at this longer term. The three of us, the new members, have been on board almost 3 years now. And we have repeatedly asked for various things related to the science, various things related to the ongoing costs. We've been ridiculed repeatedly for wanting to save residents money on the water bill as a result. But here's the cold hard facts. Right now, we're absent the contribution to our buy down of the $300 million fund. We're sitting at a cost of around $5.50 or so. If we vote this tonight, I think we have another chance to vote it down, perhaps, or delay it later on in the year. But that adds, even if we were to shut down every project next year, which, as Director Ralph pointed out, we've not shut down a single project, nor slowed any down. We've actually sped some up. If we were to go through with this bond and we, for whatever reason, everything shut down, 2 years from now, let's say, this vote tonight would cost us another 51 cents on our water costs. 51 cents. That's what this money would cost. Next year, we've got one that's roughly twice this size, which would add yet another $1. And so we're looking at a year from now being locked in, if we move forward on this. A year from now, we're looking at being locked in at a price that's already gonna be at about $7. And that's not sustainable. That doesn't include the other $3 billion that one of our public comments mentioned. When you start adding all that in, we're pushing $12, $14, $15 per thousand. And that's frankly not sustainable. Nobody in this room wants to pay that, and unfortunately, a lot of people in this room don't live in the district. But, that's not a sustainable number. At around $10, you start getting the death spiral that I think I mentioned last night. And if you, just to put a little sharp edge on it, maybe to restate a little bit what I said last time. If we get to $10 a thousand, and that causes water usage to go elastic, 50% of the water sales go down because they're choosing to pay their electric bill instead of water at the yard. If that happens and we lose 50% of our water sales, that doubles our cost per thousand of the water, doubles it. And so once we get into the $9 or $10 a thousand range, we're looking at in very short order a death spiral that takes the water cost to double that. And who knows what happens at that point. I think we're looking at perhaps a legislative bailout of some sort at that point. My overall point, I don't want to belabor this, is that A, we shouldn't do it without Director Barker here to add his 2 cents worth. I think we could wait and do this next month without doing any harm to the process. Is that right, Mark?
Director Ramsey, I would just want you to attachment C, and I believe it says that September 5th is the last day to execute, which is, I believe that's before our next meeting. I think it'll be the 8th.
Where does that date come from?
Attachment C, the last meeting.
Where does the date come
Water company. It's a financing schedule that's attached to the part of the financing agreements. It's referred to as attachment C.
from? So if we delayed it, we would have to call special meeting. Even without that, for 3 years, we've been trying to do the same old, and expecting to somehow magically get ahead of this and the water costs not go up in an unsustainable fashion. And other than spending down the slush fund, we're not doing any good. And so I just think it's financially irresponsible to keep piling on debt like this. When eventually that's just financially not sound. That's all.
Are we stopping construction? Do we need to stop? I mean, I hear Mark's interpretation of
this item, does his opinion line up with the staff? I'd like to hear the.
No,
Okay,
That's not what I'm saying, Director Fuss. It's not what I'm saying.
okay, I'm trying to figure out.
What I'm saying
She want, they
is-
want this, and you wanna.
Y'all speak directly to the chair, not to each other.
Oh,
Yeah. Just speak, not just directly to each other, we don't need that, listen to each other, so. Just keep it fair, so keep going.
Well, I'm just hearing that, what I'm hearing is a difference of opinion. And so I kind of like to get a little clarity as to the two positions that I've heard so far. So I'd like staff to chime in on Director Ramsey and vice versa, but either, you know, and I've heard this for 3 years or for 2 years, we've been asking, when's the last time you had a meeting with the staff? Sorry. When was the last time Director Ramsey or Director Barker had a meeting with the staff on this topic? If they've been asking for 3 years, another time we ever hear about it is at board meetings. When, you know, if it were me and I had questions that were going on for 3 years, I'd schedule a meeting with the general manager and have him invite the financial director, and let's hash it out, let's get answers to my questions. But they only get brought up in board meetings. We're expected to have all the board members, the audience participate in a financial discussion. It just, the meetings get long. And I would imagine a lot of this could be hashed out in a legal meeting with the staff. And I'm not sure why we have to do that in this environment.
Mr. Chang, can you, before we go back to the can you remind us, did the board already approve spending this money?
correct. This is the amount that the board approved in the last year. In our 5-year CIP. And to answer the professor's question, if the board did not approve this financing agreement, that means we will not have funding for our project, which will stop.
So let me ask for clarification. This is basically, we approved a 5-year plan with the Texas Water Development Board. And so these are our intentions of our borrowing plan from the state. And this is basically pulling the trigger for this next year. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, it's for this year's.
It's for this year's, what we agreed, this is part of our plan, we agreed to borrow this much money for this year, and now we're actually formally saying, yes, that's the amount of money that we want to borrow from the state. Okay.
And even though we've been on this track, our staff has said we're still a couple years behind them, right?
Correct.
So we're still hoping to work something out with this science district, we just haven't yet.
Correct.
Director Ramsey?
Well, I don't know how to answer Director Fessler. He's just kicking back. This is not directed at Director Fessler. We've been asking for the science from Harris Galveston. We have not received that. Their current report is over 2 years behind. In my experience in working in the science and technology business, my entire career, is that if somebody's not giving you data, there's a reason they're not giving you data.
Which report is behind you? Which report do you think is behind you? That 5-year report or the 8-year?
Yeah, I forget what they call that. Yeah.
Well, I think they did wrap that up.
It's the joint regulatory office.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it finalized or not? No?
If I can just interject,
Go
question, it was on the, agenda for July, but they didn't do it. We said that we would schedule it.
Is that not been going on for a year now? A bit delayed.
It's over,
Yeah, yeah.
way over.
Well, I share Mark's concerns, but the problem is, for the last two legislative sessions, we've tried to get some relief, and we can't even get a hearing in the committee, much less any relief. And until, the sad fact is, until our water rate goes to $10 and $12, we're not gonna get any relief from the legislature. And then we're gonna get it, but by that time, all of us up here will be replaced. When water goes to $10, we'll be replaced. I guarantee that.
Well, I've seen charts though that show could be $7, $8, $10 in the next several years,
I
right?
think John and Cindy have some models that go even higher than that. But, that's not my point. I'm not disputing anything Ron saying. And Ron, I don't wanna say too much, but the legislative initiatives are having an effect. I'll just leave it at that. Okay? We shouldn't give up on that. Just because we didn't get a hearing, I mean, major legislation, major changes, it almost always takes 3 or 4 sessions. I haven't personally given up on something maybe happening in a special session, but I'm an eternal optimist too. But I'm not an optimist about water rates, and that's my point, is that just like in the movie Titanic, when the captain asked the first mate, is the ship sinking? And the response was, it is a mathematical certainty. It is a mathematical certainty that we're headed to just a shade over $7 if we continue to do the same old thing and do this one and the one next year. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff we don't know, and we're not getting any action on, where is the $7 billion problem that we're trying to fix? We've been asking that since the first election. We're not getting any answers to that. Yeah, I just think it's foolish to keep pretending those answers are gonna come. I don't think personally, Harris Galveston's even negotiating in good faith. Anyway, I've said enough. This is taking way too much time, but just want to point out that we are headed, not including the 2035 build out, we are headed to $7 minimum once we spend down the extra money we've got. Minimum.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do was build up our cash reserves so that we can use those cash reserves in future years to keep the price of water down rather than selling water for less than it costs us now. That's the people's money too, 5 years from now, as well as today. And we elected not to do that, and I have to accept that, but, that could be a possibility too, of increasing our water rates now to keep water rates down in the future. Just a thought. Well,
Okay.
if we eliminate our cash reserves, there's no way to keep the water rates down in the future. We'll just still steady spike.
That's a minor temporary effect. These are 30-year bonds. We can't fix that once they're sold. That's just the next 12 months.
Well, luckily, the Water Development Board has allowed us to delay using some of these funds until the following year or two. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, the amount that was previously mentioned was put back to 7.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
That was good.
They did it.
I'll
I
make,
was-
I'll make a motion to approve the financing
Well,
agreement.
Director Festor's already done
Are
that.
you already done that?
So I think, given the, the deadline, I'm sorry that Director Barker's not here, maybe we could wait, but I think it's gonna get approved anyway. So given the deadline, and we've already committed to this, and I mean, I hear all your points you're making, Director Ramsey, and other good points. We have a motion on the table, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, motion carries.
Good record vote on.
Yes, Director Ramsey's a no. And, Director Barker's a no. Okay, next up is, C, which is approval of amendment to the rate order regarding dormant well fees.
Yes, so currently the authorities, well permit, aggregated permit district, Silas District, has many wells that is not producing. And when those wells is not producing, we are not collecting any fees. However, we are paying a permit fee to keep those wells in our payment. And some of those wells were applied for, approved, but never even drilled. So we have here proposed the board to approve, change the rate order so that we can charge a administration fee to keep that well on our permit. So the rest of the ratepayers will not bear that cost. That's what it is.
And it's just being enough to cover the permit fee?
Yes.
And how much is that?
Amber?
Yeah, so it's enough to cover the permit fee and a handful of hours for administration of the year for doing the reporting, renewing the permits. So the proposed fee is $1,000, it's in there annually. And then essentially the cutoff then would be corresponding amount of water that would be $1,000 in revenue. Anyone who's less than that would pay that permit fee. So, and the majority of them are not paying anything in zero pumpage.
How many of these wells do we have? You said 30?
Sure, so we've got, we reported on about 700 wells last year in our permit, of which over 200 of them last year had zero flows.
Oh my
So we are
gosh.
paying a fee for all these folks. Some people might have been on our permit for a decade, thinking they were gonna drill a well, and it was a nominal fee for them to apply for the well, and then they see it's a couple $1 million to drill the well, and they don't wanna drill the well anymore. So we've got over 200 on the permit with zero flow that we're paying for, and then we've got, maybe, about 30 or 40 that are minimal under that threshold that might turn on their pumps once in the whole year that would still qualify for that threshold.
Wow.
So it's a
So
significant.
that's, whose thought was like there was this?
We would like to clean this up and have the folks who are
Move approval.
incurring the cost.
Director Ramsey?
Yeah, since this is, I believe, a rate increase, don't we need to have a hearing before actually voting this in?
This is not a rate increase. This is a fee.
I love government speak sometimes.
How do you feel about it?
I'm sorry.
Are some of most of these muds or?
They are mostly
about the fee.
not.
All right. What's that?
Mostly they're not.
Oh, most of them not muds.
Those are the developer who wants to apply for well to submit their development plan, so they have to have utilities, so they say we're gonna drill a well. And in order for them to do that, they have to have someone to cover it. And so we'll be carrying them, like Kendra says, we'll be carrying them for many years, and the development never evolves. The rest of the ratepayer pay for those wells.
Thank you, Director Anderson.
I respectfully disagree. This is not a rate increase regardless of what you call it. I'm gonna move to table this till the next meeting to give these 200 well owners or potential well owners a chance to comment on this. That's all. I'm not against the fee or anything, but I just think that, we shouldn't do it without notice to the public.
Well, of general counsel's here, is that a rate increase?
In my opinion, it is not a rate, it is a fee. And, so you can have a hearing if you want to, but you're not required to.
I just think it's the right thing to do, regardless of what you call it.
All right. Well, we've got a motion to table till, or postpone till next month.
Postpone till next month.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
Would, one quick thing, would it be possible to send these permit holders, a letter?
Yes, so in terms of, speaking to each of these permit holders, we've actually already been in the process of working on this for several months now. So some folks who are listening online might have gotten calls from, random Perlo engineer employees who have been reaching out to folks. Quite a few of them have not reported and not answered and not commented back. Some people, it might be that they don't know anything about the well. Some people aren't answering. So for the ones that are answering, we can send a letter to. For the ones who that company still exists and it still is at that location, we could send a letter to. But by and large, I would say a lot of these are just cleanup that needs to happen. That also, if they don't pay their fee, what's written into this is that if they don't pay the fee, we do not keep them on our permit either. So that way we don't have to keep administering if they don't respond to that.
Is it true that that saves money?
Absolutely. Long-term, the administrative costs to reach out to these people who are non-responsive, the administrative costs to keep trying to reach out to them every year, have you drilled the well, what's going on, and then the actual fee itself.
So sounds like I just think we ought to give them fair notice that we've got to put this on our feet.
So,
Well,
Chandra,
this
then?
Well, first of all, this will not take effect until January, because it's the end of the year. So once the board passes, this will be posted online, everybody will be, become aware of this. And secondly, this is not, we're not forcing them to pay the fee, they have an option. If they no longer plan to use the well, they can easily say, okay, I'm out, take me out from your permit. So it's not like a rate, we charge them, they have no choice, they have to pay. So this is entirely a cost-saving issue, measure to save ratepayers.
I guess at least 100 of the people on this list would opt to not pay the fee if they haven't pumped and they have never drilled the well, or they have perhaps the well no longer produces because the aquifer has dropped and they're not gonna use that well anymore. That'd be my wild guess.
How much will it save?
Yeah. So if you had 100 people times $1,000, 100,000.
Okay, well, it sounds very fair. It sounds like this is not gonna go through till January. I feel comfortable approving this, but we're gonna vote on, we'll vote on tabling. All in favor of, or postponing until next month, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion fails on tabling, or postponing until next month. Dr. Kelly's motion to approve this amendment to the rate order regarding the government well fees. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Okay, Director Ramsey is a no. Motion carries. Next up is adoption of an order authorizing redemption of certain authorities' outstanding bonds.
Yeah, so we have a bond that was issued at the very early years, in 2003.
Yes, yes, 2003, refunded in
It's
here.
the very first bond we have issued. And we have the opportunity now to have early redemption. And if we do that, we will save a lot of interest. I believe the latest estimate is $11 million.
Yes,
And the amount of the bonds left, the payment left is about $47 million. So I would highly recommend the board to approve the early redemption of that bond.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Any discussion? Director Ramsey?
Is this the same series that we were discussing several months ago where John Hathaway was in free of cash?
there's been discussion on refundings on the 2013 and 2014 bonds in the past, that we were looking at.
This is not refunding,
No.
this is a redemption.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But is this the same bond issue?
I don't think so. No, the bond that was become available was issued in 2013, 14, because that's after 10 years you can refinance.
I understand all that.
But this is issued 2003.
No, this is the 2013 issue, because 2003 was refunded in 2013, and so now it's redeemable. We have the redemption option after the law.
It has been refunded in 2013, but there's absolutely no sense to refinancing a bond that's 5 years, 7 years mature. So the best approach to this is to just pay it off and save interest.
And you've discussed this with our Belmont Council?
This is actually prepared by them.
And this would also be taken out of our reserves, right?
Correct.
So that would lower our reserves in the fund.
Correct.
So I wanted to ask for this, and it was basically because there's concern by some of the board members that that particular improvement fund was getting too big. And I've always kind of been a proponent, well, if we're gonna, let's make some good use of that money. If you wanna get that balance down, let's pay something off, or let's pay off a construction project with it. But I thought this might be a palatable solution to using that money. So that's why I asked about this, and that's why it's on the agenda.
So we're gonna save $11 million, and our fund is gonna be decreased by $58 million. Wow. Okay. Director Ramsey?
Why is this the first we've heard of this?
Because we just saw it, right?
I would expect a little more information when we're trying to think about something like this.
So this is that $300 million fund, and it's gonna be decreased by $59 million.
Correct.
So what you're doing is let me ask you a little bit different question. It's a little more fact-based since we didn't know this even on the draft agenda. What's the current interest interest rate that these bonds are paid?
Interest rate. These big coupons were 5%. Some of the coupons are 5%, but some are less. I can find it for you, but I don't have the interest rates. I have this debt service schedule.
Is this something we could postpone until next month, so? When Director Barker's here, we'll get his feedback.
We don't know what the interest rate is. We're spending 58 million to save 11 million. And John Howell's proposal is going to free up $11 million in cash. Is that right? Is this all the same issuance?
Pardon me?
John Howell's version of what to do with this was going to free up 11 million in cash. Is that correct?
Well, yes, once we pay off the 2013 bonds, that debt service reserve fund is no longer required. My understanding is we can use some of that funding to use towards the payoff or for other interest-seeking funds. I'm not sure, our council would let us know, or, John would let us know, if there's restrictions on the use of the freed up debt service reserve funds.
Move to postpone.
Any other discussion? All in favor of postponing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, motion carries. We're postponing until next month. Okay, next up is, agenda item 7, the operator's report. Finally, Mr. Jerry, come on up.
How about them Cowboys?
I got two weeks here. Hey, good evening, Jerry Jones, with Infomart, speaking on behalf of the operation. For the month of July, we haven't had any water quality issues or concerns reported by any of our operational team or any of the district operators. So, for the past month, everything's been great.
Jerry, do y'all smell the water and drink the water at the plant, right?
Every day.
How,
Operators normally do that first thing in the morning when they come in and they check the facility.
is it once in the morning?
Yes, for the most part, yes.
You just wonder if he likes it very different.
Oh, wow, I thought they did it, more often than that, but I was wondering.
And all the wells are operating and,
Everything is working well.
okay. Well, that was an easy one. Director Ramsey.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up question. I know we were having some pressure control problems with the new pumping station. I'm wondering if that got taken care of and what the problem was.
We just had an increase in demand that day that we were having those issues. We just had a big increase in demand and the shift in putting more pumps online to meet that demand was just moving a little slower on our end than what was needed to keep up with it. So that was a one-day happening a few weeks ago. So other than that, everything else was going right.
There wasn't any equipment.
No, it was definitely no equipment issues. It was more operational with just getting more equipment on to, meet the demand that was coming in.
Very good. Thank you very much. Agenda item 8, Director of Planning and Governmental Affairs. We're very on this, sir.
Thank you, Madam President, board members. I was gonna mention something about the subsidence district related to the joint regulatory plan review, but I've already mentioned that, so I'm going to mention that. And the other thing I was gonna mention is the legislative session. Of course, on July 21, the session convened, the governor called a special session to address 18 items, but as everybody knows, I'm sure every network, channel, newspaper is covering the fact that the quorum has been broken in the legislative session. So, that's where we sit. The session will end on the 19th is the 30-day session. Of course, the governor can call them right back for another session. That's what happened I think in 2003. I would say that even though the session is scheduled for 1 o'clock tomorrow, there's actually also the disaster and living select meeting is meeting at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So I guess there may be some committee work still going on. So that's really about all I would say, but, go.
Just for all your inside information, why did they pick Chicago?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I thought about that myself as well. You know, I think that state has,
It's a sanctuary city.
I've also heard that it's Illinois is the most gerrymandered state in the US. And for them to go there and fight, yeah, just.
yeah, they break down from 18 to 3 or something. The others. So everybody stay tuned, I guess. I think in 2003, I think they stayed out 4 days. It seemed like such a long period of time. I remember that.
They were only in Oklahoma or something.
I think they took buses, as I recall.
And we got the report from our lobbyists via email today.
Yes.
Check your email.
He breaks down pretty well, they break down pretty well each issue that's been addressed or not been addressed.
Thank you. Agenda item 9, construction engineering updates.
I understand, well, no, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, that's mine. Phase 2B, which is additional 160 MTD, was supposed to be substantially complete July 28th. But at 17, the requested an extension for 90 days. So that puts back in end of October 2025. And commissioning and testing is supposed to start in September 2025. As of this morning, the train 1 and 2, like phase 1 and phase 2, they were running, and we are probably almost between 100 to 110 MGD. Both of them are running, 70, 30, or 80, 20, that range. Please.
So how long before we get water out of the expansion?
Well, we are getting a lot of work every minute.
We're not being limited, are we?
No, but, okay, but you said there was, you started out your report by, well, it was supposed to be.
No, that's at phase
Phase
two.
two.
Phase 2.
Okay.
Right now, we have plans that which can be 160 MGD.
Right, we're getting all that we need out of
But we
that.
are only pumping between 100 and 110 MGD,
Yeah.
which we have tons of water which we can't use it.
Okay.
Now, the balance of the plant, which is another 160.
Well, so it's the balance of the plan that's now
160
delayed.
MGD, which was supposed to be finished, substantially complete July 28th. They requested an extension for 3 months to finish that.
Who's working on it?
Use the water of Spain, that's the proper, same contract, will design go.
That we're suing?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you
Well, they're suing
sorry?
us. And we're counting.
And see also, I was listening to the Texas Water Development Board meeting, and I heard the city of Houston's requested more, money to redo their old plant, to work on that.
That's East plan.
The East plant, yeah.
This is what.
Right, so maybe they're busy with that.
No, that's a different project.
Of course, they're not worried about they got an exemption, I think, for working on, fixing all the water leaks. They were like exempt from that when they got this funding. Anyway,
I'm not up to date on the city of Houston.
yeah, anyway, they need to work and focus on something else, but anyway. Okay, so this doesn't affect us, this delay doesn't affect us. Director Rankin?
Yeah, if you forgive me, this is out of order because we've passed it, that your comment triggered one more question, but maybe Mark or Roger, somebody. I saw
saw an article that said that the Central Authority had gotten, I don't know, several million dollars, several dozen million from TWDB. And I'm wondering if y'all know anything about that? Was that just an ordinary financing loan, or was that a grant of some sort, or? You know, and the follow-up would be, they have some money like that for us, if it was a grant of some sort.
I think it was a loan, I think I heard them talk about it. So I've heard the last two board meetings. I feel like it's just like.
I'm speaking from memory now, so please forgive me state this. But as I recall, at the July meeting of the Water Development Board, Central was on the agenda for some SWIFT loan, and I would assume that's just something that people with transmission line and northeast plant, it's a small, say small, but it's large.
30 or 40 million or something.
And we also co-funded some of the projects with the North, so they have, they agreed to co-fund a portion using SWIFT money as well, but none of us know exactly what this current one is for.
It's not a grant related to this recent legislation. That was kind of the way the article read it. It wasn't.
Okay, is that the update?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Anything else, board? Okay, agenda item 10, amendment to the procedural rules of the authority, including amending section 2.05 and 2.06.
Okay, as we discussed at the last meeting, state law has changed, which requires us to post public days earlier than we normally do. We normally post on Friday for a Monday meeting, and now instead of 3 days, it is 3 business days. So that pushes back all of the scheduling for drafting the agenda, sending it to the directors for comment, and getting comments from directors for upcoming agenda items. So, the recommendation is that we push everything out several days to comply with state law, which doesn't have to take effect until September 1st. So you don't have to do it tonight. If you'd like to look at the, resolution that was, in the memo that was completed with the package. We can include that in your policy, because the policy already says we'll post it according to the state law, which is 3 business days now. So if you want to change your rules to say you will have the opportunity to get the agenda 10 days in advance instead of a little bit less, we can do that. And it's open for discussion. We just want to do it the way you want to do it. I believe that, the general manager would like to have a path forward on this, which I think is appropriate. And,
Right now, we're gonna get the draft 10 days in advance, so.
that's right. But you need to move it 2 or 3 days
Right.
back in order to make sure we get it to you enough time, so you're not going to post on that line, which are currently.
Right. George Williams.
Yeah, remember, sorry, I haven't actually worked on this since last
Oh,
meeting.
and I mentioned to you that maybe don't go more, okay.
Yeah, and I did not do that, but it struck me as Andy was talking, that the simple, and I'm not saying we need to do it tonight, maybe it's next month, but the simplest thing we might think about would be to insert business in front of days in section 205 in both places. Just, you know, maybe that, at least temporarily solves it, and it turns out that's not workable somehow, we can fix it later, but if we just put business in front of days in the 2 places in 205, it, to me, that seems like it's.
10 business days would be in like 2 weeks before the meeting, so it's a little too much.
The reason we choose 10 days is because we consider that may be holiday, and that's why we use the day and accounts for potential holiday.
Well, we can get more complicated, that's a simple fix.
So having it out to the director basically 2 Fridays before the regular meeting. Would give you until Tuesday, I guess Monday, close of business, to put in the new agenda items in, which would be the post on Tuesday, which would be the 3rd business day.
So we're still gonna get the draft on Friday? That won't change?
A week early.
A week earlier? I mean, that's fine, we could have that whole week to add in, right?
No, because you have to post 3 days earlier. So we're moving it back to essentially 7, 8, 9, 10 days before you get the draft, 10 days before the meeting, 10 calendar days. You have to have.
We already did that, right?
comments.
We'll get the draft 2 Fridays before our meeting.
Well, usually it's Monday or Tuesday, and then we post it on Friday. And your comments are due by Wednesday, I believe, yeah. The Wednesday before the meeting.
You got it 2 weeks.
That's right. Okay, you can.
Directors get up to you in the 3 o'clock December.
Oh, that's the third time that.
Andy, posting the meeting means you pay somebody to post it at the courthouse downtown Houston, right?
No, now we're posting on our website, and at the office here, which satisfies all the.
So we don't have to post it downtown anymore, just put it on the website.
Website, and then we post it on premises.
Save $50 or so.
All the directors got it. No?
No, just you.
No, that doesn't sound right. Okay, so you're saying for everyone else, they're getting two Fridays before?
Now I'm saying under the new regime, we'll get it 2 Fridays before, and any request to put an item on the agenda would need to be done by the following Monday, and we would post on Tuesday.
All right, there you go. Sound good?
I'm ready for a vote, that was so good.
Okay, so that's what's in here? We just need to,
Yes, well, I was just looking for that guidance, and we will draft this bill.
Consider it moved and let Andy tweak the language.
okay, so we're voting on it then?
Yeah, we should.
Okay. Right, so we're gonna vote on this, what we just discussed, and I guess Andy can tweak it too. Sound
Who
good?
made the motion?
Mark Ramsey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item 11, board discussion of potential future agenda items. Crickets, okay. Oh, Director Ramsey.
Yes, this is not something for future, this is just thanking staff because they do have, in a little bit easier to find fashion, the check register basically online now, like we asked about last week. So thank you, Ensign, for you had coordinated.
Okay, thank you for that. Agenda item 12, the next regular board meeting will be held on September 8th, 2025. And we're adjourning at 7:19. We want you to no further business? Okay, we're adjourned 7:19.